Hey everyone, welcome back to Eleganza TV. Today I'm excited to show you how to sew this stunning corset top with a double inverted V-shaped keyhole neckline and long sleeves with double flare. So here is the finished look. So I originally made this design for this project, but I noticed that the boning wasn't sitting correctly. It was curving and poking out despite ironing it properly. So I decided to make another one. I used the same pattern to create this new one. And then in this updated version, I will be showing you the correct way to fix your boning to get a flawless finish. So without further ado, let's get on to the sewing tutorial properly. So we'll be working with a chantilly net, crepe fabric and skin net to create this design. You will see me working with two different fabrics in the course of this video. This is because I had to refilm a portion of the process, but the technique remained exactly the same regardless of the fabric. So don't worry if the fabric switch during the course of the video. Please ensure that you've watched the cutting tutorial so you know what exactly we're doing here. So right here I have the pieces of the back yoke, the front yoke, and then the bra cup pieces. So this is for both the main fabric and the lining. So what I'm going to do first of all is to turn the back yoke, and then I'll also be turning the front yoke. So you can see the way I place my lining front side facing front side of the main fabric, and I'll start stitching the neck and then the keyhole neckline at the back. I'll also do the same thing for the front part. I'll place the lining front side facing front side of the main fabric, and then I'll be sewing the V neckline and also the V-shaped keyhole neckline as well. So as you can see, I went ahead to pin the places that I'll be sewing on, and I'll be stitching with 1/2 inch seam allowance. So when sewing, you'll be sewing along with your hemming gum. So just place it on the place you want to sew on and then stitch. So it will be easy to turn and iron. And then for the cut pieces, you'll be placing the center front to the side front, and you'll be stitching with 1/2 inch seam allowance. So I'll just go ahead to pin it like so. I'll be sewing on the lining and on the main fabric separately. And then when I'm done sewing, I will open it up on my bust arm and iron the seams open. So guys, here's how the yoke of the front and the back looks after sewing and turning it. So I'll keep this one aside and let's work on the cut pieces. So for the cut pieces, after sewing, I placed it on my bust arm to iron the seams open like I said I would. So the next thing I'll be doing now is to fix my bra cup to it. So I have the size of 40 inches bra cup here, but it's too wide for the cup. So I'll just go ahead to hold it that on the bottom part. So this is going to reduce the wideness of the cup, and it's also going to make it deep to make it very cuppy. So you're just going to measure 3 inches upward and then measure 1/2 inch on the bottom. So you're just going to sew it that, okay? So guys, I've gone ahead to do that for both of the cup. So what I will do now is to trim off the darts, and then I'll be fixing it on my main fabric. So after trimming it, you're going to have it looking like this. So I'll be placing my main fabric on top of the cup, and I'll be pinning the sides of the cup, okay? You're just going to use your pin to secure it, and then you can go ahead to stitch the sides after you're done. So after pinning the sides, I'll go ahead to add hemming gum to the top part, but that is totally optional. So I went ahead to do the same thing for the second cup, and this is how I have it looking like. So I'll just go ahead to stitch the sides of the cup. So after doing that, I'll keep it aside and let's work on the body part of the corset. So guys, this is how the body part of the corset looks. I went ahead to rule several lines that is going to be serving as my boning channel. So I didn't do too much, and you can choose to put as many boning channel as you want, but I don't want it to be too much. So I'll be taking out the patterns, and then remember that during the cutting video, I showed you how to cut it on your chantilly net and also on your skin net, which is going to be serving as the lining. So this net I'm working with, unlike the other one, is not stretchy. But the mistake I made when making the other dress was that I went to fix my boning on the chantilly net instead of the skin mesh. So for this video, I'll be fixing the boning on the skin mesh. So I'll keep the chantilly net aside, and then we'll be working on the skin mesh. So I'll go ahead now to place my pattern on the skin mesh and then notch my lines that I'll be sewing my boning on. So I'll notch it on the top and also on the bottom. And then I'll also be doing the same thing for the front part. I'll be notching the lines on the top and also on the bottom, okay? So I'll be illustrating how to fix the bone using this front part. Then I'll do the other side off camera so the video will not be too long. And then for the boning, I'll be making use of my regular bone, which is the sewable bone for the boning casing. And then I'll fix plastic bone inside of it to give it more structure. Because only the regular boning is not strong enough, so that's why you need to insert plastic bone inside of it. If you fix only the sewable bone to it, it might tend to bend when you put it on. So I have some strips that I cut out that I'm going to be using to wrap my bones with. So there is no particular length, but the wideness is going to be about 2.5 inches, enough to wrap the bones with. So I'll take it over to my sewing machine to show you how to wrap the bones and fix on my boning channels. So on the Regeline boning, you have two sides that you'll be sewing on. So you're going to place your bone like so, and then you're going to start sewing on one of the sides. So I'll sew on that line till I get to the end of the fabric. So guys, what you're going to do next is to use the fabric to cover up the bone. So you're going to push the fabric to the other side to cover up the rough edge, okay? And then you use your material to fold it enough to cover up the bone. So after covering it up like so, you're going to start stitching on the sides that is open. You stitch till you get to the end. So this is how you encase your bone with a fabric. If you don't quite get this video, I have other tutorials that I did the same method. I'll be linking them down below on the description box. So guys, this is how it's going to be after you finish encasing your sewable bone. So the next thing I'll be doing now is to fix the bone on the skin net, okay? So I'll be placing one side on the notch point. You can see the notch point on the bottom of the skin net. You place it on the notch point, and then you're just going to extend it to the other notch on the top part. So I'll go ahead to start stitching on my initial stitch on the sewable bone. So when you're sewing your bone to your skin net, ensure that you're not stretching the skin net. Just use your fingers to hold the bone so it can be firm, okay? So you're not going to be stretching it. You're just going to lay hold the bone with your fingers, and then you spread it enough so that your net will not be folding. I don't know if you understand what I mean. So basically, this technique is the same thing I did for my doubtless corset. So you can go ahead to check that video out so you'll be able to understand properly. So after I sew the bone to the other notch point on the top, I just cut it and I'll be stitching on the other side. So the same thing that you're going to do as you're sewing, you're not going to be stretching your net, just open it well so it does not fold. And then use your fingers to lay it hold. So this is how it's going to be after you're done sewing. You're going to iron it properly to make it flat and relaxed. So I'll do the other ones off camera because of time. So guys, after sewing, I went ahead to lay my chantilly net on top of the skin mesh, and then I'll pin the sides together. So I'll be doing that, then I'll trim off any excess that I have on the skin mesh. Because of the boning, some parts will tend to stretch. So you're going to be pinning them together, and then you trim off the excess. So I've gone ahead to do that, as you can see, for both the front and the back, although the back doesn't have much excess. So guys, after trimming the fabric to be equal like so, I will separate the chantilly net from the skin mesh so that I can fix my bra cup to the cup space. So I'll bring out the brad cup that I've already prepared before to be fixing on the cup space. So this is how it looks. So what I'll be doing is to fix the center front, fix it properly. The smaller part is going to be on the center front, just like you see. Then what I'm going to do is to pin the sides, okay? The sides of the top. And then after you pin it like so, you're going to be pinning the other remaining space under it, okay? So this is one way to fix your cup properly so that it should be equal. So after doing this, I'll go ahead to stitch around it with 1/2 inch. I'll do the same thing for the other sides. You're going to pin the top parts together, pin the cup and the main fabric. And then after you pin the both of them together, you will be joining the remaining space together, like pinning the remaining space to the cup. And then you take it over to your sewing machine and join with 1/2 inch. So guys, this is how it looks after I finish joining. So the next thing I went ahead to do was to iron the seams properly. Okay, this is how it's going to be on the inside. Then for the skin mesh part, which is going to be serving as our lining, you're going to be joining your cup on the opposite direction. So your wrong side will be facing the top. So where your bone is, which is going to be serving as the front, will be the back. Okay. So these are I'm going to be doing it. I will just pin the sides of the lining of the cup, just like the way I did for the main fabric, and then sew around it with 1/2 inch. And then for this one, after stitching the bottom of the cup, I'll go ahead to fold it in and top stitch it, okay? Because this is a skin mesh and it's going to be transparent, so you don't want the rough side to be showing. So as you can see, I went ahead to top stitch it after joining the cup. So this is how it's going to be like when you're done. So I'll just explain with this second side. After joining your cup, you're going to be folding the 1/2 inch seam allowance inward and then you pin it. Then after you pin it all around till you get to the end, you're going to top stitch it. You turn it over to the good side and top stitch it. So guys, after sewing and ironing the front part, this is how it's going to be looking like. So what you're going to do next is to measure what you have on the bottom of your cup. So you're going to measure it round. So I have about 15 inches on both sides. You measure the both of them, it ought to be equal. I have about 15 inches. So I'll be cutting a bias that we use to encase the bottom of the cup to cover up the roughness. So I went ahead to cut my fabric in a bias form to form a bias. You can also go ahead to use a bias, but bias is not that wide enough. So when I say to cut a bias, basically you're going to be cutting your fabric in a triangle shape. So you fold your fabric in a triangle shape and then you measure up the length that you need. So this is how I cut it. As you can see on the screen, this is how I cut it. Then for the wideness of the bias, I made use of 2.5 inches. Then the length, I made use of the 15 inches that I measured around the cup, but I added extra so that after sewing, I'll be trimming off the excess. So you can see that I ironed the both side and I folded it again, just like the way a bias comes, so that it will make it easy for me to sew on the bottom of my cup. So what you're going to do is just pin the rough edges like so. Okay, as you're pinning, you're spreading it out and make sure that the bottom of the fabric does not enter into the bias. So you're just going to pin and stitch on the bias, okay, to make the bottom to be neat. So guys, after doing it like so, I'll go ahead to stitch it in a way it will appear both on the front and on the back. So I'll do the same thing for the other cup. So this is how it looks after sewing the bias. So you're going to iron the cup part properly. I've not done that yet. I'll take it over to iron it properly. So next, we're going to be fixing the front yoke. So you're going to let it lay flat like so. And then you measure what you have on the space of the V shaped. Okay. So I have about 4.75 on both sides. So what I'm going to do first of all is to notch the midpoint of the bra cup. Sorry, the midpoint of the top of the corset, okay? So this is my midpoint. So you're going to turn the yoke part front side, facing front side of the main fabric, and you're just going to place it on the notch point and then pin. So after pinning it like so, I'll go ahead to measure from where the keyhole neckline starts from, 4.75, and then I'll notch where the 4.75 is on the cup part. So it can differ for you. It could be 5 inches for you. So just go ahead to measure what you have on your keyhole neckline, just like you saw me do. So I'll place the other side of the keyhole neckline on that notch point, and then I'll just pin it till I get to the end of the fabric. So I'll go ahead again to explain with the other side of the yoke, okay? So you're going to place the yoke and the main fabric front side facing front side, and then you're going to be placing it on top of the other notch, the other keyhole neckline, okay? Because it's going to form a V shape. So you're going to place ½ inch on top of it, and then you pin. So I'll just bring it up close so you can see what I'm doing. So after securing the yoke with your pin, you're going to measure from that point there where the keyhole neckline is starting from. Measure the 4.75. Like I said, it can differ for you. So you're going to measure what you have on your keyhole space, just like the way I did. So I have 4.75. Then after measuring it there, you're going to place the other side of the keyhole neckline and then pin till you get to the end of the fabric. So just like the way I have it here, I'll be stitching on the yoke part. Then after stitching, I'll bring my lining. You can see the way it is front side facing front side, just like the way it is. And I'll go ahead to sew the top part. Then when sewing for the lining part, you're going to be sewing along with your hemming gum. So it will be easy for you when you want to iron. But first thing first, I'll be stitching the yoke parts. Then after doing that, before I'll go ahead to sew the lining. So guys, after sewing, I went ahead to top stitch on the lining part so it can be easy for me to iron it. So this is how it's going to look like. I'll take it over to iron the top parts properly. So after you finish ironing the top, you're going to pin the sides of the chantilly net and the skin mesh together. And then you also be pinning the bottom to be equal. So when ironing the top part of your corset, ensure that you're making use of a breast ball. So you're just going to place your fabric on the breast ball. So any curved part that has to do with the bra cup area, you're going to use your breast ball to iron it. So after I finished pinning the sides and the bottom, I went ahead to iron the body part to make it laid flat. So the next thing I'll be doing now is to fix my plastic bone inside of the boning casing. So this is totally optional, but it helps to give your boning more structure. And then for the length of the bone, you're going to measure from the bottom of your corset to 1 inch away from the top length, and then you cut. So I'll just go ahead to measure all the bonings that I need for all the lines. So before fixing your bone, you're going to use your filer to file the rough edges of the bone on the top and on the bottom. Then you go ahead to insert it to your boning channels. So guys, I'll go ahead to insert the other bones off camera, and then when I'm done, I will be ironing it to make it relaxed. So now I'll be working on the back. Remember that I placed the skin mesh and the chantilly nets together like so. So I'll be working with one of the back. I'll keep the other one aside first. So the next thing I went ahead to do was to cut out this fabric that I'm going to be using for my lacing panel. So the fabric length is exactly what I have on my back. And then for the wideness, I have about 5 inches. Then I folded ½ inch inward on both sides, and then I folded it again into two. So what I'm going to do is place the center back inside of the lacing panel, and then I will cover it up. So make sure to remove your pins in case you did the same thing like I did here. Remember to remove your pins. So when you cover it like so, what you're going to do is use your pin to secure it, and then you'll be top stitching towards the end of the folded part. So when sewing, you're going to ensure that the stitch appears on the back, okay? And then after you've done that, you're going to sew on the folded parts. You're going to create a boning channel on the folded parts, and then also on the part that you stitched down. So guys, this is what I mean. After top stitching my lacing panel, I went ahead to create two other boning channels where I'll be inserting my plastic bone to. So the center part will be where my eyelets will be, okay? So I will place the two back together like so, and then trim the excess on the top and the bottom from the lacy panel. So guys, after ironing, this is how your back should lay flat, okay? So the next thing I'll be doing now is to fix the yoke for the back part. So I'm going to place the yoke just like the way it is. The main fabric has the interfacing. So just like the way we cut it, the yoke is going to be starting from the lacing panel. So I'll just go ahead to place front side facing front side like this, and then I'll use the lining to turn it over to sew. Okay, so just watch closely and see the way I'm doing it. I'll put the lining to the back and do like a sandwich method. So this is just the same method that you use when you're joining your shoulder in a knit form. So I'll just go ahead to pin, continue pinning till I get to the end, and then I'll stitch with 1/2 inch. So guys, I'll just go ahead to explain again using this second part. You're going to place the yoke front side facing front side of the back, and then you open up the lining and turn it over to the back, okay? So this way your back is going to be in between, the back of the fabric is going to be in between the main fabric and the lining of the yoke. So you're just going to continue arranging it till you get to the end, and then after doing that I'll take it over to my sewing machine and stitch it down with 1/2 inch. So when sewing, to make it easy for me, I'll be sewing along with my hemming gum. So guys, this is how it's going to look like after you're done sewing and ironing. I went ahead to cut out my bones that I'll be fixing onto the boning channels, and then I'll also be using my filer to file the bones. So remember that all your plastic bones should start from the top and end 1 inch away from the end of the top, okay? So what I'm going to do next is to join the shoulders of the front and the back together. So what you're going to do is open up the lining of the back shoulder, and then you turn it over to the front. Or you can choose to just join the shoulder like that and then you weave it. Or you do the sandwich method, which is going to make your shoulders to be neat. So I'll just go ahead to explain the joining of the shoulder part again. You're going to place the front and the back shoulder like so, and then you open up the lining. So the back lining, you'll use it to turn it over to the front part, and then you're going to join together like so till you get to the end. So that way the front shoulder is going to be in between the back shoulder main fabric and the lining. So after joining the shoulders, as you can see, it is looking very neat. So what I'll be doing next is to shape the dress. So you're just going to place the sides together and take out the sewing allowance. So I added 1 inch sewing allowance before, so I will be taking out exactly 1 inch. But you can also go ahead to take your body measurement on the top part. So after joining the side part, this is how it looks. So what I will be doing next is to trim the allowance out. Now this is totally optional. You can go ahead to leave it like so and then weave the sides. But since this is a corset top, I want it to be snatched. I'll be trimming off the side parts, okay? And then after trimming it off, you'll be fixing a bone to the side part. So I'll go ahead to prepare my boning channel with my regular boning, and then I will sew on that side part. Then after doing that, I'll be inserting my plastic bone. So I've already showed you how to do that already. So I'll go ahead to do that off camera so the video will not be too long. So guys, please note that the boning that you'll be fixing to the side part is going to be 1 inch away from your armhole, so that when you fix your sleeve, it's not going to be piercing out or poking you. So the next we'll be doing now is to piping the bottom part of the corset. So you're going to measure what you have on the bottom, and then you'll be using the chantilly net to piping it. So I have about 36 inches of length, and then I went ahead to cut my chantilly net to be 40 inches long. So I'll be folding in the excess inside. So the wideness is going to be about 2 to 3 inches. I made use of 2 inches for this one, but later on I went ahead to cut another one to make it 3 inches because the 2 inches wideness was not enough to pipe in the bottom. So what you're going to do is pin your chantilly net on the bottom, just like the way you see me doing. You can actually sew it from the front and then fold it to sew at the back, or you can start from the back and then fold it to sew at the front. So just watch closely and see the way you do it. So guys, after you pin this to the ending, you'll be folding the excess that you have on both sides inward, and then you go ahead to stitch on the bottom with 1/2 inch. Then just like the way you see, after doing this, you'll be folding it twice to cover up the rough edge. So I'll just go ahead to fold it and use my pin to secure it. Then I'll take it over to my sewing machine to just stitch down. So after cutting my sleeve for the main fabric, this is how it looks. So I'll take out the pattern and then I'll be joining the sleeve with my seam allowance of 1/2 inch. So guys, after joining, you're going to measure what you have on your bottom sleeve. So I have about 4 inches there, and into 2 is going to be 8 inches. So I'll be making use of a pattern paper to illustrate the flare sleeve. So what I'm going to do is fold it into 4 pieces, just like the way you fold when you're cutting a peplum. And then on the folded part is where I'll be taking my curve. So what I'm going to do is on that folded part, I'll go ahead to mark 4 inches. I have 4 inches on my bottom sleeve, but I want it to have excess. So that's the reason why I'm just marking exactly 4 inches. My pattern paper is folded into 4 already. So when I make use of 4 inches, I'm going to have excess to pleats around the sleeve. So I'll just go ahead to just draw a circle on that part. So after doing that, from that circle, you're going to be taking the length of the sleeve. So for the long sleeve, I'm going to be working with 9 inches. So I'll just go ahead to mark 9 inch around that circle. So that 9 inches is going to be for the long flare. I'll be using this pattern paper to cut both the long and the short flare. So after cutting out the long flare on my fabric, I will just go ahead to cut out the short flare from it. Okay, so for the short flare, I'll be making use of 6 inches. So I'll also go ahead to mark 6 inches around the circle. So like I said, I'll cut the long flare first on my fabric, then when I'm done, I'll cut out the short one. So guys, this is how it looks after cutting on my chantilly net for the short sleeve and also for the long one. So you're going to place the short one on each of the long one like so, and then you pin around it. So I'll be opening up the big circle, which is the big flare, and then place it like so. So after placing them like so, what you can do is to stitch it all around, or you can use your pins to secure it. So you're going to bring the long sleeve, and then you place the double flare front side facing front side of the sleeve. And then when you do that, you'll be pleating it around the bottom sleeve. So what you're going to do is, as you're sewing, you're pleating till you get to the end. Guys, we've come to the end of the making of this stunning corset top. So let me know in the comment section if you find this tutorial helpful, and please do well to subscribe if you're yet to subscribe to the channel. Thank you for watching. See you in our next video.